You're listening to MANX Radio, and I'm Judith Lay, welcoming you to the podcast of the MANX Sky at Night with Howard Parkin.
The Nation Station, MANX Radio.
Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are.
We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
Now, that's the familiar music that normally tells us that Howard Parkin is in the studio with us. Well, actually, Howard can't be with us tonight, but he didn't want you to miss out on any essential information that you need to know as you go stargazing in the coming weeks. So he's sent us a report. He's first of all telling us what we can look for in our MANX skies, and then he's even chosen some music for us as well. It's a good choice. And then a quick roundup of the latest space news. So let's hear, first of all, from Howard looking at our MANX skies.
Well, good evening, Judith. It's great to be here once again. And I can only apologise for the unfortunate viewing we had of the eclipse yesterday because of the cloud conditions. It's always a great shame when these things happen, but as ever with astronomy, it's one of those things that we rely on good weather, and that's what makes it so special, whether it's an eclipse, whether it's a meteor shower, or anything else we look for. It's always a shame when we don't get it. We will have another opportunity to see a reasonable eclipse of the sun again. In August next year, there'll be an eclipse which is going to be very near total from the island. It's actually going to be about a 95% eclipse, and the totality path runs down from just off the west coast of Ireland, down from Iceland to Spain. And I know quite a few people will be planning to go and watch that. It'll be quite exciting from an Isle of Man point of view, because whilst it won't go dark, it will be noticeable. But once again, I must stress the need for people to make sure they use proper eclipse glasses to look at the eclipse, possibly use the ones you had hopefully to have used yesterday. Keep them safe, but make sure they are still of good enough quality to use again, because any acid on your fingertips can possibly destroy the lamination and destroy the ability for those to be effective. Moving on to what we can see in the night sky in the month of April, well, we have, as ever, got quite a few things to see. The eclipse, of course, was strictly speaking in March, but whilst we now move through into April, of course, the sky is starting to lighten. The clocks have gone forward again now, so we don't get as much hours of darkness. And quite a few of you will have noticed that the bright object in the western sky has now disappeared. That was the planet Venus. That went between the Earth and the Sun on March the 22nd and is now re-emerging in the morning sky. But we have still got left in the evening sky the planets Jupiter and Mars. Jupiter and Mars, not far from each other, basically both above the constellation of Orion. And Orion, one of the biggest and brightest winter constellations, is now setting in the western horizon. But Jupiter is above right of Orion and Mars is above left of Orion. Jupiter is actually in the constellation of Taurus the Bull, and Taurus actually will be setting in the west along with all the other constellations of the winter. In the early part of April, you'll see them slowly disappearing in the western horizon. Jupiter actually does stay visible for us till about June the 24th when it goes around the back of the sun, but it is going to be lost in a twilight sky very soon. Mars, on the other hand, is racing the sun backwards. Mars has regained what we call positive motion and is now going towards the east in the constellation of Gemini. Very, very red, very, very easy to spot. And it's going to go through a field of constellations that's only got one or two bright stars in them. Mars is actually, as I say, racing the sun and moving rapidly eastwards. So it's not going to actually go behind the sun until November the 20th. So it's amazing how fast that planet is going to move. Of course, it orbits the sun in just 2 years. So literally in the 6 months between now and November, it has got 90 degrees, if you like, to travel on its path. But it's rapidly going to go through the constellations. It's in Gemini now. It'll then go through the constellation of Cancer, then it'll go through Leo, then it'll go through Virgo, then Libra, before finally getting into Scorpio, when it will give up and go around the back of the sun, and it will re-emerge in our morning sky in about January, February of next year. In the meantime, we had the planetary parade not long ago when we had all the planets visible in the sky. Well, Mercury, Venus and Saturn have all now gone through what we call solar conjunction and are now re-emerging in the morning sky. And it's not impossible, difficult, but not impossible to spot all three in the early morning sky if you get up early one morning. But again, be very careful. Do not look at the sun when it's come up. You're looking for these three objects, very faint objects. Venus will be the brightest of the three, but the three of them are just about able to be glimpsed in the early morning sky at in towards the middle of April and beyond. In the meantime, Mercury will then whip around the sun very quickly and will re-emerge into our evening sky and will be visible in the evening sky from about the 21st of April. And this is always great to see because you had it in the morning sky and then literally 2 or 3 weeks later, it's in the evening sky. Unlike the last time Mercury was in the evening sky, when we had Venus as a pointer for it, it will be on its own. So again, you need to be waiting until the sun goes down around the 21st of April. Wait till the sun goes down, perhaps go to Peel and have an ice cream. And as the sun goes down, see if you can see a faint little star with a pair of binoculars initially, but then possibly you can find it with the naked eye as it gets darker, slower and slower throughout the course of this spring evenings. We have another feature to look out for on April the 3rd, when the planet Jupiter and the moon will be very close to each other. So if you're wondering which star you think is a star is in the skies, in fact, Jupiter, that's the one close to the moon on April the 3rd. The other feature we have in the April sky, which is worth looking for, is the Lyrid meteor shower. Now, the Lyrid meteor shower is the second big shower of the year. It peaks around the 21st to 22nd of April. They won't be particularly bright because we have had a full moon in the sky on the 16th of April, so that will still be present. But the Lyrids are usually pretty reliable, and you get to be about 15 to 20 meteors an hour if you find them. The constellation Lyra is rising in the northeastern horizon around about midnight, and it's always the best time to look for meteors. So give it a go if you're up and about. We really need to be looking that sort of time because, as we said earlier, it gets dark much later now as the clock has gone back. Finally, in April, we have got the International Dark Skies Association Week. And this is something that I'm heavily involved in with the International Dark Skies Association. And it's just an opportunity to look at and wonder at the wonders of the night sky, the dark night sky, of which the Isle of Man, of course, has got 26 officially. So if you have a mind to, have a look up at the sky anytime between the 21st and the 28th. See if you can see the Milky Way. The moon will have been full on the 16th, so we'll be 3/4. So you might get to see the Milky Way and just marvel at the wonders of our night sky.
Well, we certainly enjoy doing that, don't we? Marvelling at our beautiful dark skies. Now, as I said, Howard isn't able to be with us in the studio tonight. He sent that report of what we can see in our local skies. He's also suggested a music choice, and this is it, from Crosby, Stills and Nash. He says, I think Southern Cross would be a good choice.
Got out of town on a boat going to Southern Islands, sailing to reach before a following sea. She was making for the trades on the outside and the downhill run to Papa Ete. Off the wind on this heading line, the Marquesas. Got 80 feet of a water line, nicely making way. In a noisy bar in Avalon, I tried to call you, but on a midnight watch I realized why twice you ran away. Think about how many times I had fallen. Spirits are using me, larger voices calling. What heaven brought you and me cannot be forgotten. When you see the Southern Cross for the first time, you understand now why you came this way. 'Cause the truth you might be running from is so small, but it's as big as the promise of a coming day. So I'm sailing for tomorrow, my dreams are a-dying, and my love is an anchor tied to you, tied with a silver chain. I have my ship and all her flags are a-flying. She is all that I have left, and music is her name. Think about how many times I have fallen. Spirits are using me, Lord, your voice is calling. What heaven brought you and me cannot be forgotten. I've been around the world. I have been around the world, looking for that woman, girl, who knows love can endure, and you know it will, and you know it will. So we cheated and we lied and we tested, and we never failed to fail. It was the easiest thing to do. You will survive being bested. Somebody fine will come along, make me forget about loving you in the Southern Cross.
And that was Howard Parkin's music choice for us this month, Southern Cross from Crosby, Stills and Nash. Now, as I mentioned a few moments ago, Howard's not able to be live with us in the studio tonight. He sent us that report that you just heard a few moments ago about what we can look forward to in our Manx skies in the coming weeks. And now he's taking a look at what's happening in the world of space exploration, where there always seems to be so much going on.
Well, Judith, the space news, as ever, is prolific. There's so much going on. It really is incredible. But the first story I must mention, of course, is the return of the two NASA astronauts, Sonny Williams and Butch Wilmore, who safely came back to Earth middle of last month. They, of course, were never stranded in space. That was a load of rubbish. The media really highlighted that, and NASA handled it very, very well indeed. I was pleased to see that they didn't just respond to the questions about those two. The whole crew got a chance to speak quite a lot about their experiences. And it is a factor of space exploration that things will happen and change, and those astronauts could have come back any time they wanted. So I'm just glad they're home, and hopefully we'll hear no more about stranded astronauts in space, but I'm sure we probably will. Moving on to other stories, of course, the other big story this month is SpaceX. SpaceX, of course, launched their eighth Starship mission not long ago now, and that one, again, they brought back the first stage back brilliantly. They've done that 3 times now. They've caught the first stage, but the last 2 missions, number 7 and 8, the orbital stage, the second stage, and the one that's putting these spacecraft into orbit, failed quite disastrously and quite explosively and dramatically. What they're doing now is they're getting ready for launch number 9. They think they know what went wrong, and they're making all sorts of plans to launch number 9, which should hopefully be, they're stating no earlier than April the 4th. So we'll be watching that one with much interest, and no doubt talk about that at the end of April when we do our broadcast then. The other thing, of course, is Elon Musk has made an announcement or a pronouncement that he hopes to get a Starship, an unmanned Starship, to Mars by the end of 2026. Now, that is a huge goal, a huge ambition. If they succeed with the Starship 9 launch and subsequent launches, it's quite possible they'll do it. But of course, when they get a failure, a catastrophic failure, or a rapid unscheduled disassembly, as Elon Musk likes to call it, then that might push things back a bit. But it's exciting times at the moment with Mars exploration and SpaceX. NASA are still getting ready for their Artemis 2 mission to go to the moon, back to the moon and back, in early 2025. And the other thing that's happening, which people don't talk about much, is the Chinese are slowly but surely plodding ahead with their own mission to get to the moon and indeed to Mars. And the talk of bringing back samples from Mars has now accelerated somewhat dramatically, because there's been a recent announcement now about a company in the United States who are intending to bring back, or are offering to bring back samples from Mars as early as 2031 for $4 billion, compared to the budget that NASA originally had of $11 billion. So some cost savings there. So we'll wait and see with much excitement to see what's going on. In the meantime, the Fram-2 mission, which is the first private Dragon spacecraft, or any human spacecraft with private citizens on board, to go into polar orbit, that's being launched on the 1st of April, and we'll look out to see about the details of that. That'll no doubt be in the media, because that'll be quite a story, first spacecraft into polar orbit. And the whole point of the going into polar orbit, it gives you the ability to get to different places and see different things. And even possibly, one of the things that has been mooted is that the Dragon spacecraft could be used to service the Hubble Space Telescope one more time. So again, a lot of news going on, and we'll just have to wait and see what happens. In the meantime, in a few weeks' time, the Lucy spacecraft, which is on its way to the Jupiter area to look at different asteroids and what we call the Trojan asteroids, is going to fly past a small asteroid called Donald Johanson, named for the scientist Donald Johanson. And that spacecraft is on a way, as I say, to Jupiter, but it will fly past and send us back pictures of that object as well. We need to congratulate Chris Stott and his company Lone Star, because the Intuitive Machines spacecraft touched down on the moon a few weeks ago now. And whilst it fell over, which was a great shame, and didn't give us the results we really wanted, it was the first time that a data center, which Chris is working on quite a lot with his company Lone Star, they actually put a small data center into that spacecraft, and that landed on the moon. And it did land successfully, albeit that the spacecraft fell over and communications was lost some time later. So all sorts of things going on, Judith. I could also talk about the fact that the James Webb Telescope recently discovered some molecules in the upper atmosphere of what we call an extrasolar planet. And there is some conjecture about this discovery at this stage. It needs to be reaffirmed. But basically, they discovered some substances in the atmosphere of the planet using the robotic ability of the James Webb Telescope. They discovered some elements that are thought to be only capable of being generated by biological activity. So basically, they're saying that there's a chance that they've discovered not life as we understand it, but certainly the building blocks of life which need to exist for life to exist as we understand it. So as I say, there's an awful lot going on, and there's a lot we can talk about, and I look forward very much to talking to you again next month. And in the meantime, keep looking up at the sky. And as I say to everybody, keep your eyes on the sky, but keep your feet firmly planted on the ground. Until next month, Judith, bye-bye for now.
Thank you very much to Howard Parkin, and all being well, Howard will be in the studio with us on the final Sunday in the month of April.
Station.